I'm Linda Coles, and this is Tell Us a Story. Today I'm talking to Craig Rispin, a business futurist and innovation expert. His expertise is in emerging business, people and technology trends and how companies can profit from them. He's got over 20 years experience working where the future has been created and with some of the most innovative companies in the world in the IT, consumer electronics, internet and broadcasting industries. He's an award-winning speaker and has addressed audiences as large as 16,000 people on 5 continents and has consulted with CEOs of leading companies worldwide. Some of his clients include BHP Billiton, Canon, Colonial First State, IBM, Kimberly-Clark, Sportscraft, Toyota, and hundreds of professional industry associations. So welcome to the show, Craig Rispin.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. It's great to be talking with you again.
It's been probably 3 or 4 years, I think, since we talked together last on a podcast or even a webinar, I think.
Yes, or that's 12 years in internet terms?
That's about right. Things have changed.
Oh boy, have they.
Well, I'm hoping today in this podcast you're going to enlighten us to the future, and I'm sure the most often asked question is what are the lotto numbers, but I'm not going to ask you.
No, I have another friend, and her name is Jennifer Angel. If you dial her 1-900 number, she'll give you the lotto numbers, but good luck with that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a professional futurist, and we don't do that.
No. Well, let's go all the way back to when you were a young boy at 14. Where was you? Where did you grow up? And what did you want to do when you left school?
Well, when I was 14, I was living in Long Beach, California, just south of LA. Yeah, and I loved growing up there. It was a great place to grow up. And I have actually a Kiwi father. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no.
Yes. So I was the first American in my family, and that's why I have this odd accent. I grew up in California, father Kiwi, mother English. And I have a history in New Zealand going all the way back to 1905.
Wow.
My great-grandfather immigrated to New Zealand and became a fruit farmer in Hawke's Bay.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have a connection to New Zealand, but my family's all over the world, and I have a very interesting family. And so when I was 14, I had visited family, going all around the world, visiting these strange people in my family. And a few years prior to me being 14, I actually, for the very first time, met my great-uncle, my mother's favorite brother. Right. And he was a futurist. Oh. Yeah, and he knew Arthur C. Clarke, the guy who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. They actually were in the army together in England during the Second World War and were both engineers and mathematicians on this project called Over the Horizon Radar. Oh, how about that for a metaphor for the future? What's just over the horizon? But it was very important. And so when I had met my futurist great uncle, they asked me, wouldn't you like to become a futurist? So by the age of 14, I knew exactly what I was going to do.
Wow.
But we weren't quite sure how to make a living yet. It was very difficult. There were only a few hundred members in our professional society, the World Future Society, and most of them were doing these scenario planning projects and then turning that into science fiction. So most futurists were science fiction authors to begin with. But later on, corporations figured out that they could use futurists to plan for the future. And so I knew by the age of 14 exactly where I was going. I knew that I wanted to be a futurist, and I wanted to be involved with this biggest shift that was going to change humanity, since the invention of fire. And it was computers.
Yeah.
And so I was deep in the age of 14, programming computers, making games, distributing them on floppy disks, doing all sorts of, you remember those movies you'd see of these kids that knew how to run these computers and would tap into government systems and
Yeah.
almost set up a thermonuclear war? So before it was illegal to be a hacker, I was a hacker. We could dial into these systems, and we would be invited in by the system operators. So it wasn't illegal. As soon as it became illegal, I found a better job. So, but I knew I was going to be a futurist. We just had to figure out how to get paid.
So you had a big influence way back then, really, didn't you? I mean, I thought maybe it'd be something you sort of, stumbled into in your 20s.
Well, no, but I'll tell you what, I didn't tell everyone that I had these wacky friends, because they're really out there.
Yeah.
And so I kept it a bit secret from people, but I didn't keep it secret at Apple because, Steve Jobs was inspired by my colleagues, by my mentors, the people in my society. Stuart Brand, who's a great futurist, wrote the Whole Earth catalog, and others inspired Steve Jobs to create Apple. If it wasn't for futurists, we wouldn't have Apple. And Steve was a futurist as well. I know, I worked with him. And but he hated the term. Futurist. Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But he would admire the greatest futurists in the world and also diss them at the same time. That was so Steve.
So did he have a special name for you then?
Rispin. Rispin this and Rispin the other. Yeah.
A futurist then, it's got to be the opposite of a historian, I'm guessing. You sort of look to the future and figure out what things are going to be from trends rather than look back and see what happened. Would that be about right? Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm a huge student of history. I thought I might study history when I went to university, but I looked in the curriculum and there was no future in it. But the funny thing is, when you look in the curriculum for future studies, and we have hundreds of universities that teach future studies. We've graduated over 900 students in Australia. I don't know how many in New Zealand that have a degree in future studies. And what's the first thing that we study?
The history.
Of course, because we have a saying, you may have heard it before, it comes from our community. It goes like this: the future doesn't always... history doesn't replace itself. The future often rhymes, though. So it doesn't replace, history doesn't repeat itself exactly, but the future often rhymes. And so I can see things happening right now with technology, for instance, that echo what was happening in the 1970s when I got my start. So when I got my start, it was all about dumb terminals and mainframes. And so you could have a very dumb system on this end, and you'd have a very powerful mainframe. And that's what we've done with the web. We have these terminals called smartphones and tablets, and most of the processing is done in the cloud. So if you're going on Pinterest for interest, you can actually go in and search Pinterest, and you can search images now, but you're not going to do that on your phone. That happens in the cloud. And they switched on a little thing just recently, within the last 9 months or so, where you're going to be able to look within the photos and see that handbag is, Christian Dior or Orton or whatever. You're going to be able to click on it and find all the others like that, or put that directly into your shopping cart. And so this is what we've got. We've got these dumb devices. They're not that dumb, these smartphones, but they're just a terminal to the real computing power that happens at the data center in the cloud. And it's very much like what we did in the 1970s, coming back again. But we went through this transition where we tried to push all the power to the desktop, and it didn't make sense. We had these really super powerful machines. And recently we've seen this shift where Even the machines that require a lot of power on your desktop, those are moving into the cloud as well.
And it makes sense too, because you don't need to have hundreds of thousands of copies of the same information, process it, making something work or move. And I think if they did something similar when it comes to robots, I mean, I'm no aficionado on robots, but it seems that robots seem to be so expensive. But it's, from my limited knowledge, that the workings are inside the robot rather than the workings are inside the cloud where other people can access it and use that information to make their robot work. Does that make sense?
It does. And in fact, looking at what's going on with robots right now is exactly what happened in the 1970s. We had this explosion of computing power because we had, for the first time, in the late 1970s, we had the Apple, and the Apple was a general purpose computer. You could put in a floppy disk, and you could run a different program, and the machine would become a different thing. First, it was keeping your books, that was doing word processing, then it was doing a spreadsheet. But prior to that, all the computers were either a number cruncher or a weighing word processor. I know I worked on those, and they only did one thing. And then we got these general case computers that could do anything, and all of a sudden they exploded. And so guess what's happening with robotics right now? For years, we've had these specialized computers, robots, building, cars or manufacturing food or making clothing, but they only do that one thing. But recently, we've seen the emergence of general case robots. So they're general purpose, and they work alongside humans. And you're going to be able to put different programs in them. And you're actually, the way that you program them is just by dragging their arms around and show them what you can do. And there's actually a robot called Molly, and Molly will cook your meal for you. And they're going to attach the sensors to award-winning chefs. And the arms of Molly is going to cook just like Gordon Ramsay.
Excellent.
But it's not going to yell out like he does. You're in denial. You're in denial.
Well, do you remember the Jetsons when you were a kid? The cartoon show?
Of course I did.
Do you know, she had an ironing machine, Mum, I don't know what she was called, where the washing went in dirty at one end and came out clean, pressed and folded at the other end. And I'd hoped by the time I grew up that there would be an ironing machine. So can you fix that for me?
Well, the Jetsons were just a joke, of course, but it inspired an entire generation. There are actually ironing and even folding robots now in Japan. They're very expensive.
I could do with one. So what's going on in medical science, for example? Do you get involved in that too much as regards, hip replacement joints or cancer drugs, or is
I do.
Share something.
Well, about 30% of my business is involved with medical science and medical devices and how practices of the future, what doctors of the future will look like. And so I would work with some of the biggest firms and little practices as well. And I can tell you what's going on. So we're right at this tipping point that the World Economic Forum, they have this big yearly Davos in January. They go to Davos, up in Switzerland, high up. And they call it the fourth industrial revolution. And the fourth industrial revolution is after the third industrial revolution was when we computerized everything. So now what we're going to do in the fourth industrial revolution is where we're going to change us.
Right.
So the fourth industrial revolution will be about personalized medicine, for instance. And this will change pharmacy forever. I work with a lot of the big drug companies, and they are scared senseless that the next generation of medical scientists will scan your DNA, scan what ails you, maybe the cancer, sequence its DNA, and then cook in a laboratory for a day or two a specific pill for you, Linda. And it wouldn't work for me because my DNA is different. And my sickness is different from yours, and so it would be completely different. And they know this is coming, and we're right at the tipping point, and it's happening now that, personalized medicine is happening, is what they're calling it. And in hospitals around the world, they're starting to do this. It's where we're right at the tipping point of this happening. And I have to tell you, I've tried to inspire everyone in my life to try and look into the future and be involved in this fourth industrial complex. And I think I've inspired a few people from my work, but I can't believe that all of my kids are involved in this area, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter is 20 years old. She's studying bioinformatics, biomedical engineering, and she's studying personalized medicine. And I couldn't be happier because I know that she is going to make a huge difference in the world and also have a thrilling career. And this is just one thing that is going to lead to this rapid shift in the fourth industrial revolution. And we're right at this tipping point. And I have to tell you, Linda, most people can't even see it. But it's as clear as day for me that we're right at this tipping point where everything's going to change. And the next billionaires, they're not going to be the ones that can manipulate ones and zeros like the last billionaires, the Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos. It won't be the ones that do the computer programming with ones and zeros. The next billionaires are going to be the ones who change us, who can manipulate life code. Do you believe that?
It's hard to imagine. I mean, you say yes, it's you can imagine it. It's just like, of course, it's going to go that way. But for the layperson that doesn't think about the future quite the same, it blows your mind, actually.
Well, I can see it right in front of me. I meet the doctors that are working in this area, and the things that they're going to do, incredible. And of course, the number of robotic surgeries. So robots are part of this industrial. So, the number of robotic surgeries are doubling every year on year. So it's exponential, just like the computers were when they started. And so it is inevitable, as one great futurist wrote in a book called The Inevitable. Kevin Kelly, one of my mentors, founder of Wired Magazine, he writes about this is inevitable. This is going to happen. And if you can see it, you can transform your business and you can be part of it as well. So those robots, those general place, sorry, Linda. I was going to say those computers, those robots that are computers and use artificial intelligence, you're not going to have to pay a lot of money for them because guess what? They're going to be on demand as you need them by the hour. So as a business person, they want to pack boxes. They can teach the robot how to pack boxes. Maybe they're shipping a lot of things on Amazon. And they get the robot. They can teach the robot, and it's $22 an hour.
There's some massive change afoot then, really. And that has such a knock-on effect, even things like food production for the amount of people that are going to be left on the planet, as well as what will those people do if robots take over a $20 an hour job? You won't need people working in Amazon, etc.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a complete change.
It's a complete change, and it's already happening. Amazon's opening up their new warehouse in Australia in the new year. They've got the land. It's going to be the biggest warehouse ever built in Australia, and it's going to have 3,000 robots and 4,000 employees. And these robots, instead of having shelves where all the goods are, the robots know what goods they have on the tower above them. And they bring the goods to the packers. And so this is incredible. People don't realize just how good Amazon is. They are just so big. And people just don't understand that they own their own airline, their own trucks. They're looking at delivering with drones. They own their own robotics company. They're just, incredible. Some are saying that they will be one of the 4 companies that most likely to reach a $1 trillion valuation.
Wow.
It's either Facebook or it's Apple or it's Google or it's Amazon. So what's that? Is that Faga?
Well, I do a lot of writing, and I write marketing books as well as thriller books. So one of the things that I'm interested in is the future of books and whether it'll all go digital or whether the books will be around forever or something that we haven't even thought of yet. And in the community, we always refer to Amazon as the mighty Zon.
They are. And we know that more than 7,000 books now are published every day. So how do you cut through into that? And it's tough. It is really, really tough. And I think books will be around forever because you know what we found? Technology wants to stay alive and it never really goes away. It might not be as big as it was, but it still hangs around, and so you'll pick up on this. Remember when they were saying, "Oh, TV's coming out; it'll put radio out of business." Well, radio's bigger than it ever was.
That's right.
Right? And they say, "Oh, the internet's going to put TV out of business." And guess what? We're in the golden age of television, big thanks to the internet, right?
We have Netflix.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? And so, books will never go away. It's part of our human history, just like, you know, the cotton gin. You can still get a hand cranked cotton gin that'll pick the seeds out of the cotton. There's a company that still makes those, but the market there isn't for them as much as these giant robotic controlled GPS directed combines. But the technology is still there, and so Kevin Kelly actually talked about this in his book, What Technology Wants, is that things don't go away. It's just they're not needed nearly as much. And so books will be around, but you can see the transition. I'll tell you how I consume books. I love to have the Kindle version, and I love to have the audio version. And I love how they synchronize together, and so I like to read. But then if I have to hop in the car and, take the kids to university or something like that, I can hop in the car and it will start playing the audiobook just where I left off reading.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, that's so good. How good is that? Right? And then
it's true. Yes.
Yeah. And then what I'll want to do is I will actually go look for the author. So Linda, I'd like to see you presenting at a book launch, so I'd like to see that on video. So Linda Cole's talking about her new thriller. What's your latest thriller?
The Hunted.
The Hunted. And imagine you're at a bookstore and you're reading an expert, and people are there around, and you've got it all filmed and you got it linked in the book, and then I get a little experience of you, and so I get this multimedia experience of the book, the ebook version, the audio version, and then Linda presenting it at the bookstore. And I get a whole multimedia experience. How cool is that?
That's very cool, actually. It's a very good idea. Thank you, Craig.
Well, I'll be looking for it.
Oh, purely from a greed point of view, I put that question in. So let's move on to a bit more general because I'm conscious of time and your time. This is amazing. I could talk all day, but I know you can't. Oh. So you work with some huge brands, but how can a smaller business make use of your knowledge?
Oh, isn't this great? So yes, I get to work with the biggest companies in the world. It's incredible. But the smaller companies are the ones that take action faster. And the great news is that with a big company, if they have to sign up for this new service and say it's $50 a month and they have to get 6,000 employees on, that's very expensive. But if you're a little company, there's only 6 of you, you can get exactly the same technology, but for a lower price. Oh, it is so equalizing, isn't it? Oh, it's so good. You can have exactly the same tools that these big companies use, but, for, the smaller number. And that's what I love about it. Just think about the cost of software has plummeted now, down to an app on your phone for $1 or $2, or a business app being $10 or $15. I remember buying Photoshop for $1,400 every 2 years. Oh, did you buy Photoshop, Linda?
No, I didn't. Well, I did actually. I did once.
Oh, so painful, right? But you don't do that now. Now you subscribe $11 a month. You get the photographer's pack, and you get Lightroom, and you get Photoshop together for $11 a month. Don't we love that the cost of technology has plummeted and enabled small business to take action and use exactly the same tools the big ones do?
Yeah, it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, people can actually use your brain and buy a bit of your time, can't they?
They can.
So they can you can personalize whatever to whatever they need.
That's
Tell us
right.
about that.
Yeah. So for over 20 years, I've been running these mentoring groups. So here in Australia and online with my international clients that dial in from New Zealand and Singapore and Canada and South Africa. And they're all from all sorts of different businesses. And I teach them something every month. This month, guess what it's all about? Amazon. All about Amazon. And we've covered Facebook and Apple and Google in the past. But it's not just about technology. It's about how people are changing, how we must change, how we must evolve our businesses as well. And so we have a topic every month, and then I take questions without notice. And so people bring along their projects. Let's say they're publishing a new book, and they say, how do I get my message out there, Craig? And I say, oh, wouldn't it be great if you filmed your book launch and put it online? Let's do that together, right? Wouldn't that be a great project? And so I give them little tips to accelerate them. And so I've been doing this for, like I said, over 20 years, and I've got the original 4 subscribers have been with me for that entire time. So I've been teaching them something new every month for over 22 years.
Wow.
And they will tell you that their businesses, their lives are completely transformed. And I have to tell you that mine is too, because my clients teach me so much. It's incredible. Oh, what I learned because of this is incredible. Incredible.
You must. I mean, we didn't talk about it earlier on, but keeping up to date and learning must be a huge part of your job.
Oh, yes. So I invest 2 hours of personal development every day.
Yeah.
I am listening. I'm learning to conference proceedings from medical science or from transport industries or from the food industry. I am investing in my knowledge and expertise, and I'm networking with my community, and they're sharing. So they share on Twitter, they share on Facebook, and so I use Flipboard. And so I've curated a list of 700 futurists on Twitter, and that Twitter list comes into my Flipboard. And so my morning coffee is I'm flipping through my Flipboard, and I'm going, oh, that's good for a client. I'll just tweet that out, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn for my food clients. And oh, that's a good one for airlines. I'm working with airlines and airports tomorrow. And so they want to see things about airports and airlines. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually reflecting out the research that my community is doing.
Yeah.
And so that only takes about 15 minutes. But man, doing that 5 years ago, oh, so hard.
Different.
Oh, just think about that. In 15 minutes, I can share everything that's happening in the world in every industry curated by my tribe. It's incredible. It's incredible.
It is.
Oh,
it is. Well, how about a prediction?
Sure.
I mean, you've already sort of mentioned about personalized medication. So just give us another random one. What's your favorite one?
Okay. Oh, my favorite one? That 50% of all jobs will be eliminated by technology in the next 10 years.
10 years, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So this is not just me. It's the World Economic Forum also saying this. Thanks to the rise of robotics and artificial intelligence, think about all the jobs that could be transformed by that. And so the jobs that we had in the past will have to transform. They'll become something else. And what I love to tell people is that 50% of jobs will be eliminated, but more than 50% will be created. We have the evidence now. We know because of the United Nations that technology actually creates more jobs. And we have evidence because we have 1 billion people now that have jobs. In the last 20 years, 1 billion more people have jobs because of the mobile phone, that one technology. Well, this next one, robotics and AI, will wipe out 1 billion jobs, but it will create 1.5 billion jobs.
Wow.
And you're going to have to ask yourself, if that happens in the next 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, am I prepared for that? What is that going to look like for me? And start working on that today. Don't put it off to tomorrow.
No, sound advice, because 10 years is not that far away.
No, it goes in a snap.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would be your one piece of advice? Love, life, anything, the universe. What would it be?
Here's one. I didn't make this up. I learned this from a great coach. He's passed on now. Thomas Leonard, who taught the first course ever on coaching, how to do coaching. And he taught me this, and I practice in my life, and I want to share it so your listeners can make use of it as well. Go to someone you love. Go to someone you love and ask them, how can I be a better fill in the blank? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better church leader? How can I be a better coach? How can I be a better boss? Someone you love, someone you work with, ask them this question and then just listen. So, how can I be a better husband, better wife, a better child, a better auntie, a better cousin? Ask, and then just listen. Just listen. You will get gold. You'll get gold.
I will try that. I can imagine it takes them aback for a moment while they think, but then yes, just listen and see what comes out.
Yes.
And then do it.
It's so simple, isn't it?
It is. Well, thank you for that, Craig. So where can people find out about you, and where can they tag into your monthly course? Oh, your monthly, what do you call it?
It's a monthly mentoring session.
Mentoring session.
Yeah. So if they go to my website, which is Future Trends with an S group, futuretrendsgroup.com, and just click under mentor, they can register. Your listeners can register free of charge for one session. You can go to my online session or catch up with me face to face. You choose. I'd love to help you in your business. I'd love to help you.
Excellent. So that's Future Trends with an S, futuretrendsgroup.com, and click on mentor and book yourself in, because that sounds like a hugely valuable thing for any business or any individual that wants to look at the future of anything in particular. I'll be in.
Well, I can't wait to see you do your next project. I'm going to expect you to dial in and say, here's the link, Craig, to my book launch.
To my book launch, yes. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we'll have to get you back for a part 2 next year or something, when things have changed massively even again, and we've all got personalised medication in our pockets. It's amazing. But thank you once again. So I shall say over and out.
Thanks very much, Linda. Can't wait to chat to you in the new year.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye now.
You've been listening to Tell Us a Story. Why not subscribe or rate us next time you're on iTunes?